Hi everybody, I'm Hayley.
And I'm Kayli.
And today we're talking about Umma.
Yes. Very basic.
I know, I wanted to like this one.
Me too. I was going in this movie with high hopes and I was let down.
Yeah.
It didn't help that our theater experience, we actually went together.
We did.
Yeah, so we picked a theater that was close to both of us that was showing it because not all theaters were. Mm-hmm. And we went on Tuesday to save that money. But our theater stunk. The whole place smelled like a bathroom.
Like a bathroom. And it was empty. I don't know how they're in business.
Yeah, there was nobody there. The only people in our theater was us.
Mm-hmm. Literally. And then some people came in, I think, to, people who like movie hop. Mm-hmm. I think they movie hopped in. They stayed maybe 10 minutes. They left. I said, well.
They said, we don't want to watch this one
anyways. I want to see a free movie.
Yeah, and the screen was super dark. Like, I couldn't tell if it was like the movie was just dark or if it was just the screen was trash.
Yeah, and there was this like, it was dark, but then there was some kind of a cast on the screen. So all of the dark scenes, we couldn't see that well because there was almost like this red light that was blocking the projector light a little bit. So the dark scenes I could barely see. I think we were supposed to be scared. Like I could tell there was a scary scene happening, but I was like, I'm not there. So that might hinder. That might be a little
maybe
bit.
A little bit. Who knows?
We'll find out after the end of this conversation. But
true. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's like the second time I've had a bad like movie experience. The first time was at a drive-in movie, and like we couldn't see shit. Like it was another horror movie, so don't watch horror movies at the drive-in because you can't see anything. Yeah. So it was just really dark, and so it was basically a podcast, and that's how I felt with this movie as well. But yeah, anyways, I guess we'll get started.
Take it away with that summary.
Here we go. So it's not a very positive one. Sorry, I had a lot of feelings. Umma is a watered-down version of Hereditary that tries to explore topics of generational trauma, complicated mother-daughter relationships, and grief. We follow Amanda and her daughter Chrissy, who live out in the middle of nowhere, living their best cottagecore lives. After an estranged uncle comes to visit, Amanda learns that her mother has passed away. In the wake of this news, Amanda becomes trapped in the past and must fight the overpowering presence of her Umma. Amanda must come to peace with the past or her worst fear will come true. Becoming her mother. Oh, that's everybody's worst fear. Nobody wants to be their mom.
I like my mom.
Oh, I like mine too. Sorry, mother. The one fan of the show. I apologize.
So, Umma, it's obviously released in 2022. It is rated PG-13. It is an hour and 23 minutes. And it's in the horror and supernatural genre. Mm-hmm. So, IMDb gave this a 5.2 out of 10.
Lower than a 6.
A little bit lower than its average, the 6.8, 6.5 that they usually have. Yeah. And Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave this a 23%.
Damn.
That's pretty low.
That's disrespectful.
And the audience, aka the regular folks, gave it a 51%.
Okay, so they were torn.
So just to give you a little heads up about this movie. So the director and writer is Iris K. Shrim. So a little bit about the cast. Sandra Oh, who I think is the drawing star to this film. Mm-hmm. She plays Amanda. Dermot Mulroney. Sure. He plays Danny. Fievel Stewart is Chris.
Mm-hmm. She's from Atypical. Tristan was like... Yeah, he watched that show. I got addicted to it when it was on. But he's like, she looked familiar. So in the middle of the movie, I was like, who is she? But yeah, she's from Atypical. Okay.
She's also related to the guy from Twilight, Bobo Stewart.
Who's that? The werewolf?
Yeah, one of the werewolf guys.
Interesting. Look at that. Twilight always comes through. We talked about Batman last time.
See? Is it Boo Bobo? Something.
We'll call him Boo Boo.
Stewart, but yes. And
wow.
That's her brother. So if you're curious if she looked a little bit familiar. Adea Rush plays River, who is a niece. Mm-hmm. And the uncle, Tom Yee, as Amanda's uncle. So I think that was all kind of the main characters that were in there.
There was a small cast with this one.
Yeah, it was kind of a small cast. So a little bit about the background. So from the Wrap.com, they did an interview with Iris. And she said, this is not a reflection of her and her mother's relationship.
That's good.
She loves her mother. She said she just kind of pulled from her own experiences in general. And she wanted it to be through an Asian American lens and kind of explore that. And then also kind of tie it into horror and all those things. Said she wanted to touch on intergenerational trauma, which obviously I think we got, but also just a general disconnect between generations. So how, one generation,
especially with immigrants,
this way. Yeah. Especially I think within like immigrant parents and lineage and all that stuff. She also wanted to show the parents as people, like once you grow up and you realize that your parents are people. Like that moment you're like, oh my God, they have lives and problems and struggles.
Yeah.
So
that's such a weird realization. Is that because we feel like we're in the simulation?
Yes.
None of these people actually do anything outside of us.
I know. I'm like, no one, it's like the whole, if a tree falls, but no one's there to see it, doesn't make a sound. I'm like, absolutely not. Because if I'm not with you, you don't exist.
True.
You just show up and then you go and nothing happens.
What is that called? Like, isn't there like some kind of permanence thing where it's like object permanence? So it doesn't exist to you unless you don't see it.
That kids learn when they're
That's
like
what you're supposed to learn as a child, and we haven't.
But no, it is weird. And then I'm like, oh my God, they're aging. Like, you know, you're like, oh, they're getting older.
I know.
Anyway.
We hate that.
Life.
Anyways.
So yeah, exploring that as well. And she said that she did really want Sandra Oh to be the main character, but she wasn't sure if she would go for it since it's, you know, not like a super big blockbuster movie. But apparently Sandra Oh has been looking for new kind of different roles to play, and also roles that tie into her ethnicity, but without being overdone or like too much in your face.
I like that.
Yeah. So, and I thought that part of the movie was fine. Like I was like, I believe that this is just a story about a Korean and Korean American family. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think it was like pushed onto us.
Yeah,
or
like
anything.
pushed too much, or like you can tell they're overly trying to make, like the character was Korean, but that wasn't her entire identity.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I could see identity outside of their ethnicity, which I thought they did a good job of. And then just a little bit from a video interview from comicspeed.com. She talked a little bit more about the horror side of it. And I wanted to bring up the Nine Tails because we're familiar with that. Because if you watched, did you finish Lovecraft Country? Okay, you didn't. But in Lovecraft Country, there is one episode dedicated to a Korean woman, and she comes into the story later. But spoiler alert, it's not really spoiler.
Here we go.
But she actually is the Nine Tails demon, or she has it like within her. So she has to capture 100 souls in order for the spirit to leave her.
Right.
Because I guess her mom made a deal with the spirit because she needed her life to be saved. Anyway, so I was like, oh, so when I saw the Nine Tails back in here again, I was like, this must be kind of like, it was just interesting to see because I knew it was a Korean
like folklore
kind of myth thing in Korea, but the interviewer was Chinese, and she said that it's also it's in the Chinese culture as well.
Yeah, it's Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, but they all have like different meanings.
Yeah.
Like not all of. I think the Korean one is a much more like evil demon.
Yeah, it's more of a demon, like a soul snatching type of demon. So she brought it back in here again, but I didn't really get this in the film, but she was saying like at first when the Nine-Tailed Demon pops up.
On the scarf or whatever, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's more of the main character, Amanda, isn't, used to, she doesn't really know what it is. But then by the end, she kind of recognizes it as part of her heritage and culture because the director was saying that when she was younger, or not when she was younger, but when she found out about the Nine Tails, she's like, wow, I never knew about this until now. Because she's Asian American, Korean American.
Oh, okay.
So her parents, I believe, are from Korea. So she started learning a lot about different like traditions and folklores just as she grew up, but it's not something it's stuff that she would find out kind of like later in life. So the Nine Tails at first, like the character's unsure of it, but kind of at the end I think the character's supposed to be more like aware of what it is. I didn't really fully get that, but that's kind of how she explained it.
I didn't get that at all.
I was like, oh, her mom is the Nine-Tailed Demon. Like I was going in all different directions with that, but I didn't get that as well. But that's just a little bit of background on the movie, so we can go ahead and get into the
overall
review.
Thoughts. What do you think about this one?
I thought that it was not the worst movie I've seen. I do appreciate its take on family trauma and the your relationship with your mom and generations of women. I just think it was not original with its pacing and how it went out. Yeah. I don't know what to call these scenes, but what are the scenes called? I had this problem in the It Part 2. It's those scary scenes where the character's alone and weird stuff happens. We need to come with a name for that.
The jump scare scenes?
Yeah.
Because like that's what it builds up to. It's like, oh, they're alone. Something's going to happen here.
Things are happening. Way too many of those scenes.
Yeah.
There was so many because at some point I get that things are going on and being weird and I'm ready to figure out I'm ready to move on. But I felt like there were so many of those scenes. It was like, oh, here's another one. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, and I have to wait for it to continue, but I know nothing's really going to happen. It's just kind of like a going to scare you moment. So I feel like the pacing was a little dragging on. Like, I was like, okay, I get it. Like, we have an issue with their mom. What is it? I feel like, I feel like they could have spent more time on her childhood. Like, I don't know if it would be in the form of flashbacks or what it would be. But I'm like, I felt like I needed more of her childhood versus just seeing the trauma. Like, not that you don't see the trauma, but I feel like it was a lot of those like scary scenes. And I'm like, okay, but what's going on? I felt like you only got that like 3/4 of the way finally. And I'm like, all right. So that was probably my biggest thing. And it was just very predictable. I mean, it was kind of similar to a lot of other movies. There's something scary going on. You can tell there's something in the background, and then it comes to a head, and then you figure it out, and the end.
Summed it up pretty well. Okay, so overall, I was excited about this movie because I saw that it was shorter, but it did not feel short.
It was a drag.
It felt so long. I'm like, this is like exactly how I felt with Batman. And I feel like probably it was heightened because of like the theater experience. If it didn't smell like ass the entire time, maybe I wouldn't have been like dreading for, sitting there for that long. But overall, I am so disappointed. I'm tired of wasting my time on horror movies that are just fluff. They don't do anything. They don't really go anywhere. And they end in a way that's like, everything's good. I just don't like this. And afterwards, I talked to Tristan for a long time about it because I was like, I love the horror genre. I'm a big horror fan. And I think Hereditary did such a good job of wrapping up like scary stuff and like the supernatural, but also generational trauma and also like mental health issues and a whole bunch of other things that weren't necessarily scary, but they were traumatizing.
Or Haunting of Hill House. Sorry, that was a good one.
That one is a good one too. And then they went downhill with Bly Manor.
Didn't even watch it. Shit. I was told not to.
I didn't like that one. But I'm so disappointed these days where it's just like, if you're really excited about a topic, why don't you explore it more? Like there's a director, his name is, I think, my hair is all over me. I think his name is Robert Eggers, something like that. He made The Witch. He made The Lighthouse. These movies I don't like, but he put in so much time and effort into these movies, and you can really tell. They might be a little pretentious because they are, but like he like spent years of like researching like the whole time of that where The Witch took place. He took research in that time period, and you can tell that he really gave a shit. And like I can tell she kind of cared because like this is about her like culture and like her similar experiences, not like with her mother or anything like that, but she can experience the same things as being like a Korean American, blah 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 blah. But it just felt like she didn't do anything. It just felt like I just sat there and wasted my time and didn't really learn anything. There was nothing to learn from the Nine Tails thing either. Like that shit was just popped in there and then left. It's just all so disappointing. And that's the end of the podcast. I don't want to tear into it either because I know this is like her debut film too. And so like, of course, there's probably a lot of things that she wasn't expecting to have to like bend to. Because like when you're making like your first movie, there's probably a lot of rules to it. But it's just like, if you really want to make something, make it important, make it good, make it at least like something. Like even with Lamb, I didn't really love that one, but like they actually went there, they did it, they did that whole thing. They're like, we're going to commit to having a half human half lamb child, and we're going to do it big. And they did. It was pointless and I hated it, but at least I could appreciate that they actually went there and did it. But with this one, I felt like she was just like, we'll see what happens.
Not her life's work.
Sorry. But yeah, I guess we could get more into specifics if you want to, but
yeah, I guess I agree with you there. I did also want to say, sorry, to give some of her thought of the honey, the bees and everything like that. Oh, yeah. Oh, no? You don't like that?
No, it was fine.
Oh, I was like, huffing and puffing already. Like, damn. I couldn't say anything. She did say that the honey, instead of doing like regular farm workers with animals, she did the bees. Said because they're a little bit scary, but they also produce like the sweet honey and how it's like very, the nutrients that come from that. And it kind of is like in relation to like maybe a relationship with your mom. A little scary, a little sweet. And it takes a lot
traumatizing.
A little traumatizing. Because of the stings. Yeah. Which was interesting as well. But yeah, I guess it it could have been there.
Right.
That's what I'm like, oh, it's so close, because I thought the acting was good. I wasn't like the acting was trash. The acting was very good.
The pacing was just off. The editing was really weird. And we don't have to do jump scares. We don't have to do that. We can make a horror movie without jump scares.
Or just strategically done, or done in a certain way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of like, it was just a little, okay. It's a horror film, you know?
Yeah.
I just feel like if it was flushed out a little bit better, I want it to be a little more psychological. Because it was mostly, and I know it was trying to get there, but it was just mostly like her just having these scary scenes over and over and over again. I'm like, we get it. Okay, where are we going with this? You know, like, well, we get it. Something about her mom.
Yep.
And then, you know, towards the end, you're like, okay, her mom's just haunting her because her mom always needed. I guess I was a little like, I get it was the mother-daughter relationship, but I wish it was fleshed out a little bit better, because I just kind of got, and then I felt like she did mention that she wanted to, you know, see, you know, how you see your parents as people, but
yeah,
I feel like it was super vilifying of the mother.
Very.
And I get it, because maybe that's how she saw her, but I feel like it was so vilifying that I couldn't sympathize about the haunting mother, the spirit mother.
Okay.
I think it was so vilified that at the end I'm like, I don't really feel that much sympathy for her, because not only did she burn you with electrical wiring, she's now haunting you. And then it's just like,
blaming it on
you had a hard time coming over here, and I'm like, no, I get that, but she burned you.
She did a little too much.
Yeah, it's like, so I'm like, maybe pull back a little bit. I just feel like it was trying to be so hard to be scary a little bit, and then at the end it was like, no, but here's the under, and I'm like, I can't get that. I just feel like it was a little too flip floppy.
Yeah, like
either the mom is super evil and she's evil, or she is a dynamic to her. I think we're trying to get in the dynamic area of it, but I think it was so heavy on the evil. At the end, I was like, oh, okay, so we're making this like a dynamic good and bad, and I'm like, I really wasn't getting that. That's why I wanted more background. I'm like, maybe we can see, because she did tell the story of like the music box, like, oh, when you're scared. So I got bits and pieces of that, but I just kept getting evil demon, and so I think it was hard for me to connect like the evil demon with like, oh no, but this mother, you know, good and bad. I'm like, oh, well, it was hard to get there, because the whole movie was just evil and kind of dragging, and then at the end you're supposed to believe that. It was just hard to grasp that concept, but I mean,
but there's other movies that, like, okay, so Hereditary did a good job, because that's about a mother and a daughter, and like the generations of mothers and daughters, the son. And then The Babadook, that was another really good one.
That was a good one.
There was like this movie I watched about, I think it was called The Lost Daughter, and it was also about complicated mother-daughter relationships where the mom didn't really want to be a mom, and she was like, I want my freedom, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's such an interesting topic that we're getting into now, where we're exploring like what it means to be like a good mother, what it means, because like we see Amanda, the Sandra Oh's character, kind of go through like a different, what am I saying? What does she go through? Metamorphosis? I don't know.
Or transformation, character development.
There we go. It kind of like, what's the opposite of development?
Progression?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Because like, you know, she starts out being like a very caring mother. We see that her and her daughter spend a lot of time together, and that was really sweet. And then it devolves into like resentment, which you could have towards your child, especially if you're a single mom, especially if you're sacrificing a lot for them and trying to make all their dreams come true. And then they're like, bye. So I can understand. I like that complication. And I did like their fight whenever they were calling each other bitches and slapping each other. I like that
because she hit her back, and I was like, you know what? She said, I'm American. We do this here. I was like,
we fight back, bitch.
She hit her mother.
Yeah, that's the only bad thing about being homeschooled. You know, your bullies are your parents.
Everybody, so I'm your only friend. I said, and her teacher, and her principal, and her bully. That's a lot.
Yeah, she threw back a lot of shit at her towards the end when she was trying to leave. She's like, remember all those times where you tried to go to school and you were too sad and scared? I was like,
you were lame, you loser. I was like, damn. I guess I wish
she did too much.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get maybe a little bit more on their relationship. I don't know. I just feel like things were just
it was very surface level.
Very well. Yeah.
Because
maybe give a little bit more onto what. And I felt like once again, you get Sandra Oh's this like we're setting her up to be this really good mom. They have a great relationship, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Wait, you and I go to college?" I'm like, "Whoa. I just feel like they weren't setting her up to be dynamic. It was like, she was good, and now she's looking at her crazy for wanting to go to college. I'm like, I didn't get that. Like, I feel like you have to always kind of show the dynamic of that character. It can't just be like, there's going to be a moment when we show you that she's not all good. And I'm like, I don't know how to explain it. Am I making sense? I'm like,
I think it
seemed very abrupt. Like I couldn't almost build up. Yeah, like I couldn't almost believe that she wouldn't want her daughter to go to college. I mean, I didn't get. I'm like, oh, okay, that's the mom she is, and then she wasn't. So I'm like, I guess I saw the trying to be dynamic, but I'm like, I think it needed to be fleshed out a little bit better, a little smoother in the transition, because I'm like, I feel like you're setting the character up this way, and then it did something that made me think that I'm like, I'm not really believing that for this character. But okay, here we are, and I'm like, okay, but I appreciate that, because I'm like, okay,
yeah, I'm glad we went there, because like I think it was cool, because you know she's afraid of becoming her mother, and her mother was like, you know, she started off a certain way and then became something else because of the grief, or because, you know, her husband left her and now she's in a whole other country by herself, and the only person she could take out her rage on is her daughter, which is fucked up. But like she said at the end, she's like, I know you went through a lot, you know, but like you gotta go.
Like, rest in peace.
Sorry,
gotta rest in peace over there
somewhere. But I don't know, like I like what they tried to do. There was a lot of trying to do stuff, but they just didn't like fully commit or fully like develop that storyline. And I think that's where they really missed the mark, where they could have really spent the time of showing the decline between their relationship a little bit smoother, because they do start off so close, and then at the end I don't think they're fully okay, which is fine. I think that's good. But like I don't know. I think we could have explored it a little bit more, but I did like the fight scene. I'm glad that we did go there, but yeah, it could have been done smoother.
Yes.
A lot of things could have been done smoother.
It was. Yeah. I guess I was just a little confused, because then they make it seem like the mom has the daughter out there, but then you realize the daughter wanted to be there. So I'm like, okay, so why all of a sudden would she not want her to go to college if she clearly had her in public school in the beginning? I got, you know, like I was just like, I'm a little confused. Not, I mean, I guess over time she might have slowly developed an attachment, but I'm like, I was getting that the whole isolation idea was the mom. And so then when it was really the daughter, I was like, oh, well, that kind of throws me back on the mom's character, because
you got to clarify by mom and daughter, because
I'm so sorry, Amanda. I'm gonna call grandma, mom, and daughter.
That
so we'll say that. So I'll say grandma. Okay, whatever. So the mom, Amanda. Yeah, I just felt like I thought she was the driving force between their isolation, because of her fears and because she's scared of electricity. So I guess I was like, okay, well, she clearly wasn't scared of electricity when she was living, because she said her daughter used to go to public school. They had this different life. I'm like, so when did her fear of electricity kick in?
Right, because how does she get to public school?
Yeah, because how is she getting to public school? How are they living out there? How are they doing any of this? How does she have a regular job? Because she mentioned she had what was she before?
An accountant.
She was an accountant. Type. That's why I was like, I'm just a little confused.
The calculator.
Yeah, I'm like, it would have made sense had she kind of run off and then kind of, you know, then was isolated from the world and deteriorated and maybe fell in love. You know, that sounds like, I wish we got more background, because I'm like, how was she scared of electricity? Yeah. She got scared after her daughter convinced her to start a bee farm. She made it, she said it was all her daughter's idea. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that doesn't make sense for the story then, because that means she acquired this fear after they already got to the beehive, and then the beehive wasn't even her idea. This whole isolation thing was the daughter's idea in a way. And it wasn't the mom's idea, but it's like, it's the mom's problem. But I'm like, but it wasn't her problem, because she just did what her daughter wanted.
That's what it made it seem like. It made it seem like they moved. Like, we don't really understand, like, if they moved from that farm or to that farm after they had like a normal life where Amanda was like an accountant and they were trying public school and stuff like that, or had they always been at the farm and always isolated and they tried to have Chrissy having a normal life. I don't know. We didn't really talk about that.
Yeah, that's why I was like, that was my thing. It just seemed very, you want characters to be one way, but I didn't feel like it was being set up for the character to be that way, and then it was trying to crank it and force the character to kind of like, gotcha, like, oh, here's another twist, or not a twist, but another, you know, dimension to the character. So I guess that's why I was just kind of like, what? I thought that they would have been there the whole time.
Yeah,
like,
that's what makes sense.
There, because that was my biggest thing. Because I feel like like even like Hereditary or anything like that, like it just, I can see the characters decline. I believe the characters are doing what they're doing. But yeah, I guess that's why I was just a little confused, because I'm like, whose motive was it to be in isolation? Because if it wasn't the mother's, well, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of the mother's trauma with the mom? Because if she was living her best happy life, not trauma free, but I'm like, And maybe they're implying the trauma got worse in her isolation.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that wasn't flushed. So I don't think that it's that.
Yeah.
Because they didn't show any kind of decline. I'm like, maybe if we got a few more background scenes or a little bit more stories from before. Because, yeah, I'm like, so when did you get scared of electricity?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's an interesting, like sickness that she had, like a mental illness where she was afraid of electricity because of what happened with her mom. And that would kind of play in with the bees too, because like it buzzes the same kind of way that the electricity was when she was getting shocked. Yeah. And but it shows like, you know, her sacrificing stuff for her daughter because of her interests. I like the mental illness aspect of it, of like the electricity fear, but it was kind of weird how Chrissy, the daughter, like was like over it. I don't know. When she figured out that it wasn't like real, it was just mentally, like her and her friend was like, yeah, I had my cell phone this whole time. And like, she's fine. She's like, oh, you're right. Let me test this out and like turn on the electricity.
Oh, literally. I'm like, the first thing I'm going to do is be like, Mom, are you sure you're alert? Like, I don't know. I'm not going to like test it out.
Yeah, right. That was so weird.
With all the electricity in the home. She said,
like, she might be either really sick or she's fine. We'll
play
find
that out. I want to leave anyway. I was like, wait a minute. Let's relax.
I don't know. I feel like the way that she reacted to that news was really weird. Like she was just like, instead of like having a conversation, because they were so kind of close at this point. I guess a little bit like of tension because of the college application.
But not I might kill her off. I'm willing to might kill her to see what's going on. That's why I was like, it just felt the characters are doing things and I'm like, they weren't set up to do that. Now, had her mom slapped her at this point and, you know, then she was like,
now we're going to try.
I'd be like, I believe it. But I was like, we're a little too soon for her daughter to, I think, be going angry. I feel like the daughter would have been a little bit more concerned, maybe slightly angry, but I feel like if that happened to me, and I'm not these characters, but I'm like, I feel like I would, maybe she's not allergic, but why? She clearly has a fear. Yeah. She's like breaking down in some kind of hysteria when there's a lightning storm. So I'm like, it did seem a little odd that the character went straight to like, let's test, rather than like, Mom, are you okay? Because what if she turned on the lights and her mom had a panic attack and died? Like, I'm like, even if it's not physical, I feel like at some point I'd be like, okay, well, something mentally is going on with my mom and I need to see like, where is this coming from? You know? So I agree with that, but
I did have a theory that maybe the friend River, I was like, what if she's the Nine Tails fox demon?
Yeah, I was waiting for her to be they made her weird. That character was odd.
Yeah, I didn't really
I couldn't tell what she was. I was like, is she good or bad? She's like, yeah, we was talking mad shit about you. I don't know why they was talking shit about you, girl. You're fine. You like weird, but you're not weird. I was like, what in the ratchet ass?
She was the worst friend, bro. She was terrible.
I don't know, because I was like, are they setting her out to be a mean girl or not? And
I couldn't tell the vibe.
Chill, but I was a little confused.
Yeah. So it would have been cool because like she was the one who kind of started the problem with like, oh well, I had my phone this entire time and your mom wasn't sick. So she kind of started that idea. So if she was like a demon, that would have been kind of cool to explore.
Ooh, and then her mom was actually really had some kind of reaction.
See,
and then
we could have gone there, or just don't do anything with the Nine Tails demon thing. Like
that threw me off.
I was like, why do we have this CGI Pokemon character in this movie eating some chickens?
Pretty sure there is a Pokemon character based off that. The Ninetales, literally Ninetales.
Oh, makes sense.
Anyway, but yeah, that threw me because I'm like, oh, we're gonna get somewhere with this, and then we didn't. And I guess because I know not a ton, but I'm like, oh, I kind of had a little bit of history of the Ninetales. Yeah. I was like, oh, we might be going somewhere with this because this is like an actual like creature in that culture that whatever. We didn't do anything with that. Well, the writer did do it, but I don't think it was.
I don't think it was. Yeah, it didn't come off that
what
way.
It's supposed to be doing. So.
It came off as like, oh, just a random scene.
Random. I'm like, I guess just another
jump scare.
Wolf in the forest for the chickens.
So I did like the aspect of like we were kind of learning alongside Chrissy, the daughter, of like Korean culture and like what different things meant. I did like that. So it would have been, I guess maybe that would have been when she could have told like the Nine-Tails story. Because it was on the scarf. So she could have been like, oh, yeah, this is about a demon, blah, 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 blah.
And we kind of get a little bit more.
We could have done that. But I do enjoy movies that take like aspects of different cultures or like religions and makes them or talks about them in a way that's more horror-y. Because I did like the fact that the uncle came and he was like, you know, if you don't resolve like y'all's beef, she's gonna haunt you forever, because like this is your fault, like, you know, you should have been there for your mom. She said, no.
So, Uncle, were you there?
He said, ooh.
The way I did so pissed, and my uncle rolled up with my mother's remains
just to blame you for like everything that's going on.
Clearly he wasn't there for it either. Hopefully he would have helped her out if he saw her getting burned.
It seemed like it was like an interesting like culture maybe, where it's like you're supposed to be there for your parents, like you are there for your parents, not the other way around, like with Korean culture it seemed like, because that's what he was saying. He was basically like, you running away was you running away from your responsibilities.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
because I know in other cultures, like, you take care of your parents. Like in America, we leave.
We say, you got it.
Say, I'm sorry, old folks home. But in other cultures, yeah, I think it's a little bit more of like, your parents raised you, so now you are not raising them, but you take care of them because they took care of you, type thing.
Yeah. So because of like the turmoil, the mom's spirit was like, I forgot what he called it, but there was like a term that he used to describe like the spirit of her mom. And I like that. I like learning different cultures, superstitions and stuff through horror, because that's what I like. There was like another movie called The Vigil, where it was a Jewish tradition where you're supposed to sit with a dead body overnight, so like nothing gets like possessed or anything like that.
Oh.
Yeah. And so it was like, that's like a real tradition that they do in Jewish cultures, or like the religion. And so it was cool to see it in a horror tense, where he was like seeing ghosts and all this kind of stuff. So
he was fighting. He said, not this body, not this night. Is it just
late
one
night?
night?
Pop. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, why is it the one? I guess that's the opportunity of window.
Yeah, because I guess it's like between like maybe the ceremony and like the burial.
Oh, so they have to be laid to rest. Yeah, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it was cool. I recommend that one. So like they could have done something similar with this as well, where we're learning different aspects of like Korean culture and like the different superstitions, and make it spooky, which I think you could have. I mean, that mask was very terrifying. I think I couldn't really see it.
Yeah, we couldn't see some.
I'm assuming it was. So it would have been cool if we explored more of that.
I could see that.
But yes.
But I did like the overall thought of it. I did think, like I said, the acting was good. It was there, and I did, like I said earlier, appreciate how this wasn't like Korea in your face. Like every time they do any type of anything with anybody other than white folks, you're like, they just throw it in your face. Like, look, they're not white. I'm like, we get it. We
hit our diversity quota.
No, literally. But like I said, you can always tell. I feel like anytime it's created by somebody from that culture,
yes,
it always does so much better.
Yeah,
no offense to the white folks who really tried, but sometimes you leave it to the experts. Okay,
true, because then it comes off as like natural, because it is.
It did seem natural to me. Like I believed that she was. Yeah, it wasn't like super in your face in a way that was cheesy, or like, yes, they were living their American Korean lives. I believe that. But I didn't think the whole character's identity was their race.
Exactly.
I was like, I felt like I was like, oh, interesting. Like I'm like, what a nice kind of another way to view how someone else's family would react to something. You know what I mean? Like I was like, because of the culture, it did affect kind of like their family dynamic, and like how her mom and the uncle and the expectations. But
and like they also like expected a ghost too. Like it wasn't like one of those things where like, oh, it might be a ghost.
No, they said that's your mother and she's coming for you. I was like,
mom, she mad, bro. She big mad. She gonna put you back in that closet. Yeah, I guess like the end was a big issue for me, because we don't even know how much time has passed since she dug herself out of the grave.
Literally dug. I was like, oh, she's probably just gonna pop up somewhere. No. She said
I was actually buried in
the ground.
I did like that scene and that conversation between her and her mom.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, because you did see like the pain in the mom's eyes of like not being able to see her daughter for that long. Yeah. But then like Sandra Oh being like, nah, like you were rude and you fucked up and I don't deserve this.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I did enjoy that scene. But like right after that, the resolution of everything was super stupid. Why? We don't have to have happy endings in horror movies. I don't know why y'all thought that, but we don't.
Well, a lot of times they don't.
Yeah.
It's either really good or really bad.
But it doesn't have to be good. Let's just say like neutral or like negative. That's what horror should do. Because
why
like
would it be negative?
Because it's horror.
God forbid something ends up a little okay.
I mean, it's like Drag Me to Hell. You know, she thinks that she got rid of the spirit. She's not going to go to hell. And then boom, at the end, she goes to hell.
But is that also not typical? I'm always waiting for the the scary ghost to come around the corner, but only we saw it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like with Hereditary, the way that it ended was like, you know, they had the incarnation of that spirit, which is not good for us.
Mm-hmm. But I liked it. It wrapped it up for that.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a happy ending
because that one. But I think it's two different messages. Because in Hereditary, to me, that one was what happens when it gets out of control and it's never attended to and it's left to fester until it blows up. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. But this one, I feel like she was trying to show that you don't have to be your mother. You can move on. You can. So because the message was a little bit different, I understand why it wasn't like a horrifying ending. Mm-hmm. Did I think they wrap it up really fast? They did. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of movies. I'm like, damn, I feel like we went through all this journey just for it to be like, oh, okay. It would have been nice to, I think, not be so, like you're saying, maybe not as positive. Yeah. But just showing that she's trying, she's not going to be her mother, but she still has a lot of trauma to go through.
Which is good. We could end like that. But why did they put in the part with the daughter having a cell phone? Why is she okay with electricity now?
I feel like that is a really deep-rooted thing that you need to go therapy for at that stage. So I did get that because I'm like, oh, we're just going to throw electricity in her face now because she's had her moment. I guess I have to wrap it up because that'd be a whole nother 30 minutes. But I see what you're saying in terms of like, it's okay to have an ending where you're like, you're aware of your mental, your traumas and everything that the baggage that comes with it. But we're trying to move. It doesn't have to be like, we're good now. Yeah. Because I see what you're saying. It can be a little bit like, obviously it's a journey and a lot of people never fully get over everything that they have, whether it's mental illness or trauma or whatever it is. But, you know, to see them moving and pushing and trying their best to get help and to work through it. Because I feel like
that's what the Babadook did, because she didn't get rid of her grief. She put it up somewhere and was able to have a relationship with her son without the resentment. Yes. So that was like, it was a happy ending, but like there was still a monster out there.
I did like that because it was like her grief and depression, and it's not something that would ever go away, but it's something she can manage.
Exactly.
If, you know, properly. I did like that movie a lot.
Yeah, me too. Again. It was a good one. Are we ready to...
Let's wrap it up. We can give it our
scores?
Our scores. Out of 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Out of the 9 tails, how many tails?
1. No, I'm giving it like I think I'm going to give it like a 2. I was borderline like a 1.5, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to give that half a star bump because of the environment being bad. Maybe I wouldn't have hated this movie so much if the environment wasn't that bad. What about you?
I'm going to give it a 2.5. It's not passing. It's like a 60. Is that a 2.5?
It's a 5. I mean a 50.
A 50. Yeah. I was like, it's almost there. It's not horrible. I like the direction. I thought the acting was really well done. I thought it looked nice, like visually. I thought there were some cool scenes. I just think overall it did drag on a little bit. It was a little predictable, and I guess I was confused a little bit on character motivations and symbols and portrayals. And it was a little kind of not been done before, but I wouldn't say the specific storyline, but in the way that they set up the horror part was just very done before. Yeah. But I mean, it wasn't like the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Like, so yeah, I don't want to completely trash on it or anything like that, but you know, I like where it was going, and I think it could have been a really good film, but it just missed the mark a little bit.
I agree. I don't want to poo-poo on her too much, even though I kind of did. But, you know, it's a debut film. We'll keep going, keep exploring what you want to do. Maybe horror isn't your genre. Maybe you want to do some more stuff in a different way.
You just got to...
True. You could try again.
Into it a little bit.
Do something more authentic to you.
I guess at some point, a horror film's a horror film. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, but I feel like that's the thing. I feel like I haven't watched like a really good horror film in a long time.
That's how I was like, it's doing... Horror is very tough. I think the only way people get away with it is it being psychological horror, because they can back it up. Well, it's meaningful. But try having just what's a really good, just straight up scary movie? No rhyme, no reason to it, no anything. What's a good horror film? Go.
What do you mean? No rhyme, no reason. What does that mean?
It means like there's no background symbolism. Like it's not the trauma. It's just a scary film.
But I feel like that's what makes a good horror. In my opinion, I think that's what makes the good horror.
But that's
movie.
What I'm saying.
Yeah.
So name one that's not a psychological thriller horror.
Because you would call Hereditary a psychological thriller.
Yes, that's why I'm like, can you even make a good horror film without it being mental illness? Is there a scary movie that's just scary and it's not like a journey you're going on the way? It's just a scary film. Could it be
The Exorcist?
Maybe that was a scary one.
Yeah, but there's also a journey of like religion and stuff like that.
I think they used it for the horror film, but I don't think any of the characters were going through any like significant changes.
Like the pastor that died at the end, he was the one who was going through a lot.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get that. I'm just saying not having to do with his, I don't think had to do with mental illness. I'll give it. I mean, obviously the characters are going to be not the same at the end of the film. But
right. But he was going through he wasn't really sure if he was even like, he wanted to be a preacher. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say that. I'll let that one slide because that's not psychological. That was him like questioning something about life, but it wasn't like he was seeing things because of his mental state. Mm-hmm. So I'll give it. It's just scary. Yeah, okay. But I see what you're saying. It has a little bit of oomph.
Yeah, it's not just like
a slasher.
Yeah, like, you know, I watched the new Texas Chainsaw. Apparently everybody hated it, but I kind of liked it. I like the kills. They did try to do too much. They're like, let's have racism with the Confederate flag in Texas. Nice. Let's have a school shooting line too. Let's have, like, they did way too much. They did too much. Okay. But I like the kills, and that's all that really matters.
That's all that matters in the Chainsaw Massacre.
So, yeah.
I did like Cabin in the Woods. Sorry, we're gonna have to have a whole talk about.
Maybe we should have a list of like movies that we actually like.
Yeah, we should. I don't think we've like one movie except for Meteor Man. We didn't say that one.
Meteor Man was good though.
That was a good movie. I like that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to rewatch that one. Maybe what we should do is have an experience with movies that we have liked before and rewatch them now to see if we still like them.
Revisit them.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like we shit on them so much, but we always talk about ones we liked. But I guess it's because all the ones we're watching now, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on?
What is going on?
But
they're just trying to do these like cheap money grabs.
There are horror films that I think I'm like, that was a good one. That was a good one. That was a good one. But they're just from back in the Disney. Or maybe they're far few between, and every now and then you get a gem.
Oh, yeah. Who knows? I do want to amend a statement I made before. I recommended a show called Search Party.
You recommended no more?
I don't recommend the 5th season, the last season.
Oh, the season that matters probably the most?
Yeah, because they're wrapping it up. Yeah, we finished it in California, and we could not stop talking about how much we hated it. Oh,
no. Okay, well, I have to see it.
It was just, so disappointing. Anyways, so I recommend 1 through 4.
Okay. I'm finishing up Emily in Paris, the first season. So I was scratching my shoulder. That's why I was popping out unnaturally.
No, she's possessed.
I started watching it because I needed just a show, just a mindless something, you know, to watch when you're eating or like cleaning or something.
Yes.
And I don't hate it. It's like bad but good. She's dressed like a 2004 girly. I don't even know where her fashion's coming from at all. And she's like ignorant to the culture in a way that's like super American ignorant. But I'm like, honestly, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's like, you kind of like it. You're like you try a dish, you're like, you keep eating it. Yeah, and the next thing you know, you get the whole bag. You know what I mean? So
that's true.
I would recommend that one for like a little mindless one.
Yeah.
Because it's a little juicy. They got some juices in there. I don't want to say that. Just know, so that's what I've been watching lately. I don't think I've seen anything else. We'll have to have like maybe a podcast episode where we just talk about like
the movies we actually enjoy.
Yeah, things that we actually liked, and so we're not so negative. Everybody always says I'm negative. I saw Encanto, and I'm gonna say this. Maybe I'll get tore up for the rest of my life. That was not a good film. That was not a good movie. Just because something has to do with mental illness or family trauma does not make it good. Done. I just wanted to. You might want to cut that out. Actually, I haven't decided.
You have to let me know.
I'll let you know how I'm feeling, because I am so sorry. I was fighting with people, and the funny thing is, they can't really tell me anything otherwise. It just was good. You just didn't get it. I got it. Yeah, I got it. There wasn't that much to get. Y'all thinking too damn deep here. Y'all are. Disney was sitting here like, I guess sure. Throw that in there too. God. They didn't. It's for children, and I'm not saying that kids can't understand complex, more complex thoughts. But let's stop. But okay, I'm done ranting. We might take that out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But we'll see. Because I feel like there's people out there that think like I do. They just are scared to say something.
Because I finished Euphoria too, and I didn't like it. So
a lot of people didn't like it though. So I think you're kind of
good
on par.
Because that show's trash.
But when I was talking about Encanto, this girl gonna try to come for me like, well, have you been through mental illness? I'm like, yes. Ooh. You don't have to. You know what I mean? Like she's like, well, have you experienced mental illness?
That's so rude.
It low-key was. I'm like, what does? First of all, yes. I think everybody, whether they think it or not, has been through some kind of mental illness or struggle or whatever.
Right.
Like everybody I'm arguing with is trying to act like, oh, well, you just don't understand. I'm like, no, I get it. I get your point. I get exactly what everybody is interpreting this as, mental illness and family trauma. But there's a lot of plot holes and problems in the movie. I'm not saying that talking about mental illness is good or bad, or it's bad. I think it's great that we're being more open, but I'm like,
yeah, as we should.
I don't think it did a good job of representing anything or making sense with the storyline.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense.
Yeah. Anyways, if you like things that run a little too long, then you'll like our Instagram. Does that work? Not really. But it's at Hayley and Kayli. And you can also find our TikTok at, is that Press Podcast?
Yep.
It's at Press Podcast.
Somewhere below.
And we also have a website at presspodcast.com where you can check out our blogs and our podcasts. What else do we have?
We have a YouTube channel. If you're watching us, then you're already here at Hayley and Kayli. And you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And or you can email us at presspodcast@gmail.com. Tell us if you agreed with us, disagreed with us, or any movies you'd like to see us review.
You can also let us know in the comments down below as well. We don't know what we're talking about next time.
I have no idea.
You can follow us on Instagram to find out. Until next time. I didn't like the masturbation scene. I feel a little uncomfortable watching other people masturbate. I'm like, can we fast forward?
That's because it was showing a very important scene. Even in that happy time, she was like, damn.
Her kid come, Mom.
I was like,
no.
Single moms everywhere were like, we're late.
Lock them doors. But yes, pause. Because the battery's dying.
Baby, lock them doors and turn the lights down low. Soft and slow. Yeah. I'm tired of you ain't got no place to go. I think that's the words.